everyone. My name is Lisa. Welcome to JPRC Week. JPRC standing for Justice, Peace, Reconciliation, and Creation. And this week, our theme entails about us knowing the truth. And in knowing the truth, we'll be able to understand the intricacies of knowing what mental health is. Our theme for this year comes from the book of John, chapter 8, verse 32, and it says, "You will know the truth, and the truth will set you free." And the theme is, "And you shall know them by their truth and their integrity." And today we have two experts with us in the field of mental health, and I'll allow them to introduce themselves and showcase their expertise.
Good evening, brethren. My name is Zipporah Nyarangi. Zipporah is a mental health advocate. I am a hospital psychology counseling, practicing at the Chiromo Hospital. And oh yes, a friend, a mother, a daughter, a sister, and at whole, a daughter of God. So welcome to this discussion where we shall know the truth and so that we are freed and liberated. Thank you.
Thank you, Zipporah. Daniel?
Thank you, Lisa, and thank you to PCA Mokoyo, JPRC team for this wonderful opportunity. Daniel Gashanja. Daniel Gashanja is a child of God, firstly, and a counseling psychologist by profession. On the social spectrum, I am a father, a husband, and professionally, I work with Ambassadors Wellness Center, which is a rehabilitation center dealing with issues of addictions and mental health. So thank you for having me.
Thank you. And just to let the church know, they do offer services for psychology. And if you want to see them, you can link with JPRC since they're experts. We're going to go ahead and start our discussion by defining what holistic health is. Daniel, since you said you're on the social spectrum.
Thank you. One, it's a good opportunity to demystify these things about health and wellness. And for me, holistic health encompasses the wellness of a person as a whole. It's what constitutes a person, not only the symptoms or the illnesses that someone is going through, but the whole of a person. That means the physical context, the biological, the mental, the spiritual, social, all those factors put together in a way that someone can function wholly. Thank you.
Thank you. Zipporah?
Oh yes, I'd like to add to that. Imagine your car and imagine its rims. So for you to really enjoy a very good ride, the car is taken for a service so that even as you drive, it is very smooth on the road. I liken a state of completeness as for when you're spiritually, emotionally, mentally, physically, when you're whole. In addition to what the World Health Organization will define, we define it as a complete, something that is very complete, a state of wellness, where all these embodiments, the physical, emotional, mental, spiritual, emotional aspects are all balanced so that you can now enjoy the wellness. And in addition to that, when now it comes to mental illness or mental wellness, is for when you can realize your full potential. And when you can be able to cope with stresses that are around you. And then when you're able to work efficiently, and then you can work in a community to be impactful. That, for me, would be very complete.
Okay, thank you. So usually when it comes to holistic health, many people identify health as only our physical, just like they said. And realizing that even when you as a Christian are not able to pray, can affect your physicality, can affect your state of mind. A person who's been a devoted Christian for over 20 years not being able to pray will affect them emotionally. A person who is not financially stable will affect them and the way they pray. A person who is undergoing challenges in school will affect the way they pray, the way they interact with even their friends and their family. So the discussion for today is to be able to understand the roles that mental health plays even in our own spirituality as Christians, in PCA, in the outside world, and as Christians. So my second question would be to define what mental health is and what role Christianity or spirituality and faith play in our mental wellness.
Okay. Allow me nitoanishe tu kidogo. We have talked about that wholeness, yeah, the physical, spiritual, social, mental, and for a long time, there has been some context of where, as people, as believers, we don't necessarily look at all these contexts as a part of one. So unapata, when we are in the church vicinity, the congregation, we are very focused on the spiritual way of life. So, saa zingine, yes, there is power in the blood, there is a whole gospel and all that, but there are some issues that are not spiritual in a way, and I'm not disregarding the issue of spirituality as being something that really works for us as people. I'm only saying that there is identification of the different spectrums of what we are dealing with. Because if I am sick, I need to go to the doctor. That's my physical part. I will believe I can get healed, but I'll still need to go seek medical attention for my illness. In the same way, mental health is in regard of how people think, how they feel, how they act, they behave, and as Zipporah rightly put it, it helps us to adjust to normal life. It helps us to cope with stress, helps us to relate with others, form meaningful connections, be productive people in the society. So when you look at mental health, it is that one facet that needs to be empowered, that needs to be really taken care of for me to function wholly. Going back to the holistic thing, for me to function wholly, I have to feed all these parts. I have to feed my physical part, I have to feed my mental health. And I think that's why we are here, to really put some emphasis on this conversation, that I don't have to suffer mentally because I go to church. I don't have to wait to talk about my stress, about my depressions, ati nagoja Sunday, nitakuwa sawa, ati nikifika church mimi nakuwaga tu sawa. So I think that's the context for me. It's the context of mental health.
Thank you,
Yes.
Zipporah.
Mental health for a long time has not been given the much emphasis that it requires. Still going back to the car, the main part of the car is the engine. I would want to liken our whole being from our brain, our mental faculties, the ability to think, the ability to feel, and even the ability to make very good decisions would come from when I know that I am very balanced. And so for a long time, we have not spoken about mental wellness. And for a long time, we have not given it the much emphasis, just as we've said. Now, when we were defining what complete health would be, we spoke even about spiritual health, and which would then encompass many other functioning. So when my thoughts are very well aligned, then it will mean that even to the letter, how I make decisions, it then would follow through. So having to start from my thought processes that emanate from my well-being on my mind is very important. So yes, mental health, mental awareness, having for us to be able to talk about these matters and then to be whole, so that when we come to church, we are coming when we are whole, receptive of the word.
Thank you. I like to take examples from the Bible, whereby the Bible teaches us about it being the truth. When Christ, I like using Christ and Peter mostly because Peter had the raw emotions of a person. When Peter got angry because Christ was being taken away so that he can go to be crucified, he got angry, he cut off somebody's ear. That's anger, that's emotion. And then the spirituality takes, whereby Christ himself told him, you're going to deny me 3 times. He denied him. But then coming back to Christ and asking for that forgiveness, right? So I'm asking myself, in the modern day society, when it comes to mental health, how can we take the roles from Christianity, and since both of you are Christians, and what examples can we take in the Bible to teach us more on how to take care of ourselves as Christians?
Thank you. I think there are a couple of examples in the Bible that really kind of identify as spaces of where mental health was being considered. And I think the one that comes to at the top of my head is the case of, I think it was Elijah, who went to the wilderness after, I think, fighting with the prophets and all that, and they were looking to kill him. And he stayed somewhere and didn't want to eat, didn't want to do anything. And I think for me, that was a case of what I would term as some major depressive issue, where he felt like he was alone in this world. He felt like no one cared, and he was fighting the battle alone. And but what we see in the Bible is that God never gave up on him. He still fed him, still encouraged him, sent an angel to. And for me now, the mental health context comes in from the angel who came in. I think that's the professional who was sent by God to address this depression that Elijah was facing, because the angel came in and was kind of telling Elijah that there's still work to do. He still has a purpose, and he's not alone. He was showing him that he's not alone. So I think that is one of the cases that I have at the top of my head of a mental health aspect in the Bible. I don't know, Zipporah, if you have any.
Oh yes, I'd like to add some more. Case in point, Jesus himself, who is God. In the book Matthew 11:35, the shortest verse in the Bible, we're told Jesus cried. Jesus wept. And why was he weeping? When he was seeing the state of the church. So it tells us that even when we are very spiritual, at times we can hit our lowest. So it just aligns to what mental health would be. At the time he's weeping, it feels like he's expressing his emotions, which is very okay. We are allowed to feel a certain way. We wouldn't hide that now because we're spiritual and we cover around that. Another case in the Bible, very, very relatable, is the case of the servant Job. He had everything. Actually, he was a closer person to God. And we are not told of an account where he sinned so that he would suffer the consequences of sin. But I would want us to see the state of his mind at that time. Very depressed and grief at that time. And what we would see, his very close friends would just come and sit with him. So even at the time when we hit our lowest, which we can as human beings, it is very important to have that close person who would just come and you're relating the story to, and you feel you're human. So these two accounts in the Bible would also tell us that mental health is real. And even at that time, we can seek out for help. Another one, God himself. God created the world. We are told of the creation story. And even the theme on rest. You know, we are not superhuman. We can allow time to rest, having God as our example. He did his work in 6 days, then he set some time for him to rest.
You've mentioned rest, so I'm going to break the monotony a little bit. So you as a person who has expertise in psychology, in mental wellness, how do you take care of yourself? That's my question.
Maybe I start from this end. When we're talking about balance, it really cuts across. Maybe in the area where we call it self-care. Yes, God can endow me with very powerful skills, very powerful, ways in which I can work. But then I have to take care of myself. Okay, some of the ways in which I, for example, would take care of myself is having a me time. I know that I need to be at work at this time. So in my timetable, I will have to slot some specific time for work. But then after work, I may have to have some other time for me in maybe exercise. And even as a believer, I may have also some time for me to reflect on the word so that I fill my cup. When I'm going to pour some information out, I already have something to give someone. Also, I may have to create some time for me to expand my knowledge. It would be part of the me time. Just as an introduction, saying that I'm a mother and maybe I'm a wife, I also set in some time for my family so that I live a balanced life. So when you have all this, you're able to gain some energy that can also help you work better and be very productive and, yes, efficient at your workplace.
Thank you. Daniel, unajiangalia aje?
Kujiangalia lazima. If you don't, you really lose it. And one of the things that really is affected is your productivity, both at home and at work. And it's a sad state when you're all burned out, you're feeling like everything is crashing and you still have to perform. Especially, take the case of a man. I like talking about men.
You are a representative.
Yeah, and you find that we go through a lot in terms of the expectations, societal expectations, in terms of our own expectations, the ones that we have for ourselves. Yeah, and sometimes we really push ourselves. And if you don't have a chance for those spaces of rest, and especially mental breaks. For me, I call them mental breaks, that you need to just pause and utulie tu. Because a lot is happening in this world and there's a lot of pressure. So if you don't take care of yourself, especially for me as a man, I believe if I don't take care of myself, no one else is taking care of me. Watu wananigojea tu. I usually share with men in our men's forums and I tell them, saa zingine umetoka kazi, you had all those pressures at work. Then, by the time you're getting home, I'm at the gate, I'm waiting for the gate to be opened and niingie. I really know, naingia kwa pressure ingine. Because kutoka kwa mlango, umetuletea mkate, umekumbuka nini, umefanya. So sometimes I'll even go, before going into the house, I'll pack kidogo. Kwanza ni breathe tu, nipumue, nijitayarishe kuingia kwa hii mambo ingine. So one of the ways I do practice my rest, I think one of the most effective ways for me is communication. I communicate. I try to communicate, even to my family. For me, it's a form of rest that I'm not feeling okay. No. I need to be in my room for 30 minutes without kuambiwa, hakuna, tunataka, ujafanya, unafaa, kwa nini. You know, sometimes as men, hadi unaulizwa, hata ukikosa kutoka kwa nyumba, swali ni, kwani leo uendi? Kwani utoki? Yeah, so for me, the first way I practice that is through communication. I can communicate even to my children. I have 3 beautiful kids. And I can tell them, right now daddy is tired. I need to go to my room. I don't want anyone to come into the room. Hata kama ni emergency, siyuko, nye sabuni tu siyuko, and give me 30 minutes. Give me 30 minutes to be by myself. Then I have other things I do, like just chilling with friends, friends who don't really focus on my work or anything. We just chill, have a hangout, talk about very normal stuff that men go through. And I encourage every man, even in the church, to find such a group. That's rest for me. Find a space where you feel like there are no demands. There's nothing expected of you. You're just there, you're just chilling, you're just sharing with your boys and all that. Yeah, and the others needs is a kawaida too, going to the gym sometimes when it's possible, because but there are people who have routines and it's good. The other is just going for adventures. It's a really good form of rest for me, just driving and going out of town. Nairobi iko congested. Hadi hewa yenyewe ni congested. There are places una drive tu unasikia hata hewa imebadilika tu unasikia tu umepumua hiyo easy. There's something I usually tell people. I once took my mom for some therapy, physiotherapy. And what happened is that she was doing that because she had some back pains and all that. And as I was seated, I wondered, my mama anakaa ni kama ana relax vizuri sana akifanywa hizi vitu. Because every time would come out ananiambia, hey, in Kikuyu, na nogoro. I've been stretched or something and relaxed and something. And I looked at that as a way, and I embraced it as a way of relaxing and taking care of myself. So I don't go for physiotherapy, I'll go for a massage, a professional massage, which works for me. So it's to find a space where you can relax, be comfortable, and work on your mental health. Thank you.
Thank you for those beautiful answers. The reason I have asked that question is to give the congregation a chance to understand what it takes to relax, what it takes to look after yourself. I like the example Zipporah gave. God himself took a day off to rest. So what does your rest day look like? You've worked for 6 days, you've worked for 5 days. How do you relax? Do you stay with your family? What is your time? And kwa watu wengi, kwa kanisa ni kukuja kwa kanisa. So after kanisa, unajiangalia aje kiakili, kimwili. Utakaa chini, utapata youth nje wamekaa for over 2 hours kwa kanisa, ndio waweze kujiangalia, kupiga tu story. So in the same context, especially for adults, I hope this comes as a wake-up call for you guys to actually look for ways to rest. So that brings me to my next question. You've brought 2 different case points. So what are some of the challenges you think the church faces when it comes to mental health, and specifically in matters relation to depression and addiction?
For a long time, spirituality has been linked to wellness, like complete. In some instances where a member can get sick, for example, you might find questions, kwani alikosa wapi? Alikosea Mungu wapi? You know, aende athubu dhambi. But then you'll find broadly, just from the example we had in the Bible, Job was not a sinner, but then God allowed that Satan would touch part of the possession he had. So relating to that, I may be very spiritual, very religious, but again, these things would come to me because I'm still a human being. So there would be that stigma, especially when we're seeing things are not going on well with a member. So that may be one of the ways in which maybe the church as a large, we may have to demystify some of this stigma. And a challenge again in church is for when we are excluding mental health from what encompasses our teachings. So maybe having to incorporate that for a general awareness. Because there would be somebody who may not know entirely that there would be illnesses that are related to mental. Because all along we've known when I get sick, maybe I go to Nairobi Hospital, maybe I go to Mukuyu Dispensary, I go to the chemists. But the awareness of a psychiatric facility, we may not have known. And maybe you get somebody who is taking alcohol, and maybe their families are in a wreck. We may not understand that there would be other illnesses underlying that maybe are causing this individual to feel like this. So if our leaders and our members are taken through some training for them to understand that there would be deeper needs that as a human need we may have to address, then I think that would also work better. So training our leaders, training our members, getting forums like this for us to be aware of what is this complete wellness would be. And then again, to demystify the stigma. Okay? For me, these would be top topics to look into.
Thank you. Daniel, specifically for men.
For men.
For men. It's because the larger percentage of Kenyans who are addicted to alcohol is related to men.
Yes.
So what are some of the challenges men face and how can the church help to be able to face that?
Okay.
Face them?
Okay. Sisi kama wanaume. Acha nianze sisi kama
Ninyi kama wanaume.
I think there's this movement that came about the girl child yenye ilifanya sijui tulifichwa wapi. So it was a wave that hata sisi tulisupport. Juu tungekosa kusupport tulikuwa kwa noma. Mambo ya kuempower the girl child. But the boy child akakaa ni kama amesahaulika mahali. And I think it's a very important conversation, especially in the church. Because right now, sometimes I even look at the churches and you see more church leaders being women than men. Which before ilikuwa, saa zingine hata ilikuwa taboo.
Huku kwetu ni vice versa.
Ni vice versa.
Kuna balance.
Tutafanya campaign. Lakini si unaona wewe ndio moderator hapa.
Lakini tuko wengi Revni.
Okay, so I think one of the things that happens for men, I will say, sometimes mental health shows in a diverse way. It shows up in things like anger, shame, things like addictions, as you have mentioned. And why I would even say anger is at the top of it, it's because anger seems to be a justified kind of behavior or something that you can explain. That amekasirika, so ndio maana amefanya hivyo. And a lot of men have been hiding behind that. Because as men, we are wounded. Kuinje. We are very wounded because of the things we go through, even from a very tender age. We are carrying wounds, and the thing is, for a very long time, tumeambiwa, mwanaume ni kujikaza, mwanaume hafai kulia, mwanaume hafai kusema sijui nini ama nini, anafaa stand up for himself. I remember I even see in the community sometimes from the places we walk to, a child can be beaten because of crying. Ti umelia, uchapwi juu umekosea ama juu umefanya kitu ingine, ni juu unalia. Ebu nyamaza ama nikupige. Such things. And people grow into those things. And that becomes the norm. So you'll find men in our churches trying so much to hide whatever they are going through. Because it's not manly to share. Because it's not manly to be vulnerable. And that has led to people falling into even things like addictions, depression. Because the fact is, the man in our society, saa zingine anafeel ni kama ako peke yake. Hakuna mahali anaweza enda. Because hata kwa wanaume wale wengine haezi enda. So you see, like, I don't know whether it's just the way we think about women. Women, once they're in problems, they can go to other women and share. For men, it's kind of the opposite. I'll have problems and I don't want to seem like a weakling to my other men. So I don't want to share. So there is a lot of mental health concern for men in the church. And what also we want to demystify is the difference between mental health and mental illness. Because there is that context of people, when they hear about mental health, they think it's mental illness. Wanadhani mtu ni mgonjwa. But you see, mental health is a part of our well-being. It's a part of normal health. But mental illness now is the spectrum of diseases huko zenye sasa zime come from not taking care of your mental health. So that's when you will fall into things like depression, where you get to a state where you don't feel like doing the things you normally do. You don't feel like facing the world. You feel like isolating. Your eating habits in a change. You either overeat or you're not eating. Your sleeping patterns haziko poa. You see, na huku nje unasikia tu mwanaume anasema I think ni to stress tu tunanisumbua lakini nitakuwa sawa, unaona, but not knowing that you're getting into that side of mental illness because you're not taking care of that mental health. When it comes to addictions, we are facing so many addictions, and in particular, if I focus at the church, you might not find an alcoholic or a drug addict barely akionekana kwa kanisa. Yes, there are people struggling with alcoholism and drug addictions, but you're finding that more and more people are struggling with things we call process addictions. Addictions to behaviors, addictions to pornography, addictions to sex, addictions to gambling. These addictions, they are not written on the face. You can't even tell, but people are suffering. And what will happen is that they are going into these addictions as a way of coping, as a way of just dealing with their mental health, as a way of escaping some of the things they are going through in the society. So I really feel that one of the ways and strategies that the church can come in is first by even our own leaders becoming more aware of these topics, allowing for more of these conversations. Them themselves becoming vulnerable. You see, because if it doesn't start at the leadership, it won't go to the congregation. If men at the leadership wanakuja kuuliza watu, wewe mwanaume ni mwanaume wa aina gani? Umeshindwa kuchunga bibi yako huko, and you don't know what men are struggling for. Or you're also struggling, but you have to put up the face. You see. If our leaders can come to that point, and I really love what even you guys are doing in terms of having these conversations. But now our leaders need to be more practical, because one of the things that has even come up is how our leaders are kind of the ones who stigmatize mental health issues because of being too spiritual and forgetting about the other facets or dimensions of health. So I think those are some of the things I can say. Yes.
Thank you. So today, in our congregation, we've been having talks about mental health. We've been having talks about addiction and how to embrace that. So today was just an introduction or a continuation from the previous groups on what counseling is, what taking care of yourself is, what it looks like to be able to understand the role of counseling, your spirituality, and your health. So I hope the entire congregation will be able to learn to take care of themselves and to realize and prioritize on friendships as a man, as a woman, to prioritize on also your family and also your own me time. So I'll ask just a 1 minute briefer. What would you like the congregation to know about their health?
We have a life to live. We have a society to impact. This is our home. And then when we are aware about all the spheres of our life, then we will take what it takes. We will be able to allocate time and get to enrich ourselves and then become a better us. In that, I'll mean when it comes to spiritual and nourishment, I'll allow time for that. But then I'll know that that's not entirely it. I will take time to go to a physician and get to establish, am I doing okay? Are my organs doing well? That is part of the taking care of me. I'll be able to be emotionally connected. Just going by what Daniel has just elaborated, I would want to be okay. When you're okay, you're able to take care of the next person, your next daughter, your son, the people you're living with. And then it doesn't stop there. Then physically, am I fit? Am I okay? So when we are taking all this to embody what health would be, then we are going to be productive at our workplaces. We are going to have even spaces where we can communicate, spaces where we can be vulnerable, and it is okay to be vulnerable, so that at that point, I am holy and I'm very productive and impactful in my society.
Thank you. Daniel, parting shot?
Thank you. My parting shot would be, I think, apart from the conversations, we need to take action. We need to really move away from even just the awareness into just putting this into practice. So the same way we have screening for diseases and normal diseases like cancers and such, we still have screening for mental health. And screening does not mean you're sick. It means you just want to know, how am I faring? And the good thing with mental health, it has a spectrum. It's like a 0 to 10, and then you can gauge yourself, I'm at a 4, I'm at a 5, I can do this to get to a 10 or a 9. And that would be very necessary, especially for our congregations. It's not about money, how financially able you are. It's not about how holy you are. It's not about you have things that you're doing. It's just about checking up on you. Because right now in the world, we are so focused on the externalities and the things on the outside and the people on the outside that we don't really get to sit with ourselves and even ask ourselves, how am I really doing? It's a question that we rarely ask ourselves. How am I really doing? And you can even write up something of how you're doing, how you're feeling, how you're excelling. What do you think is barring you? What do you think is stressing you at that point? So it's an encouragement. Counseling is not, I would say, our profession, the counseling, the psychology, all that. It's not an advice-giving profession. It's a helping profession. We are not experts of how people should live. Yeah, we just have some expertise in terms of helping you to assess yourself and know what you're doing. Maybe elaborate some of the things that you're experiencing in a very kind and judgmental and confidential way. So I would urge people to embrace counseling, not when they are in problems or when they are they are sick out of certain illnesses, but anytime you feel like just checking up on yourself. It's a flex. Right now it's a flex. So thank you for this wonderful opportunity.
Thank you. So today, even as we conclude with our conversation today, there's a quote we say, kwani miudu. So wewe unafaa kujiangalia, ujiangalie kifamilia. Even if you're 60 years old, look after yourself, love yourself, and loving yourself will also replicate to your family. This has been a wonderful conversation. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
And remember, kama unapitia kitu, tuko na counseling department kwa kanisa na pia Revako. And also, we will be able to hook you up with their services if you want to. This has been JPRC. Have a lovely week ahead.